Hello, this is Mary Grace with my first Quilting Bee video. A Quilting Bee video focuses just on quilting. So I have brought back all of my quilts actually from the Montgomery County Fair so that my video is longer than 5 minutes. So that is where I'm going to start. Honestly, the purpose of the video is to show you this last quilt, but it's also to show you everything that I've done with my favorite green and white material that I used to make a Renaissance dress many years ago, and this green material with flower pots on it that I used to make a vest many years ago. And how many times can we use up a large a king-size bed sheet that had a hole in it? We shall see. So this is a bookmark, and I did it mainly because it was another category in the Montgomery County Fair. And I tried some free motion quilting here, but like the judge says, I can't turn a corner to save my life. But it was my first time trying, and the judge did recognize that I was using up scraps. Oh, and this material, you're going to see this bird a lot if you pay attention. So, this is the bookmark of scrap pieces, and the judge recognized that at the fair. But free motion did not bring me much joy. I don't know if I'm going to do much free motion. And unfortunately, the free motion foot on my new machine is a little fiddly. So we'll see how that goes. This was the first quilt I really did for the fair. It's a raw edge quilt, although I don't know that I meant it to be a raw edge quilt, but I did. And again, look, there's that material right there again. The flower pots on the green. So old material from my stash. The rest of the material was new. The red binding actually is from my stash. And on this machine, I did echo quilting, which is where you go around the centerpiece. And I like the echo quilting. It turned out really well on that same material that, like I said, you're going to see everywhere. And it's funny, now that I've used this material on several other pieces, now I want to do a quilt where it's the focal point. And then around it would be like a blue butterfly, an orange butterfly, a cardinal, a sunflower, because I still have more of this material. Because typically when I buy material, it's material I fall in love with. So I buy 2 and 3 yards, and then it accumulates. So the purpose of me quilting in part is to use up some of my stash. So that is what I did when making my quilts. Another wall hanging category at the Montgomery County Fair was one with applique. So I did this one with the owl. And again, look, there's that material. Renaissance Festival vest material together in an owl. Outlined and buttons. I like to use buttons for the nose and the eyes. I think it gives it such dimension. And I'm all excited because I was visiting my mother, and she gave me her button pin, and it had a ton of these buttons in it. So now I want to make a bunch more owls and use the buttons as the noses because I think that looks really good. And yes, here is the brown pillowcase on the back. Material I fall in love with. I was looking on eBay, Amazon, somewhere. I found this gorgeous owl material. And my child has asked me, Mom, will you ever make a real quilt? I have 3 more of these panels and 3 more of these cat panels. And if I ever got hold of the material that's celestial by the same designer, I'd put all that together and maybe make a real quilt. Other than that, I'm much more into wall hangings and accessories. So for this wall hanging, I stitched on the edge to really outline the owl. And again, there's that material on the back. This was a smaller wall hanging because in the fair, there's different size wall hangings. That's why you'll see different size things that I did. And again, I was experimenting. I was learning how to do the edges. This one's really easy because it's just a panel and an edge. This one was a bit more complicated because I took the panel, mitered pieces around it, ran my fancy stitching around it, and made a bag because I wanted, as much as I love my wall hangings and as much as I don't want to do a quilt, I do want to do something that might be usable. So this as a bag is very usable. It's a nice big bag, and of course inside is that brown sheet. You know, it's funny. Not too long ago, my mother asked me, she goes, do you have any old sheets I could use? I'm like thinking, no, Mom, I have used all of my old sheets as the backings or insides of all of my quilts, because usually you don't see that material, so it's not important for it to be pretty. And I know you're thinking I used pretty material on the back of this one, but I had lost purpose for this material and just using it up. Now I have a purpose for it again, so we'll see how that comes back around. This is a landscape quilt, which again is a different category, so that's why I made it. These butterflies are off a bed sheet. There's that Renaissance material. This material was new. And then again, the ever-present king-size brown sheet makes an appearance. I would like to do more quilt wall hangings. Not everything on my wall, but my wall is covered with a lot of things I've made. And I want to have a rotation, so I could have this one with a nice spring look, and then maybe have a Christmas one. Specifically, I'm thinking of doing a Christmas crazy quilt. Crazy quilts can, and this one starts with a 5-sided piece, and then you put pieces of material around it. Now, most of the time, all the pieces you put around are very random. I'm not quite there yet, so all of mine are 2-inch strips. And I've even tried to color coordinate them more than you usually do on a crazy quilt, but this is my step 1 in my journey, and I'm doing this embroidery on top of it with the gold to accent it really well. Although this particular floss I will not use again after this project because it doesn't tie really well on the back, but it does accent nice, so I'm going to continue it here. And like I said, there really was 4 purposes to today's video. 1, to show you all the things that I put with the backs of the big pillowcase, a big sheet. 2, to show you all the places I used that green material. And then, well, I said 4, but it's 2 different pieces of material. And then to show you the crazy quilt I have completed. Okay, again, it's not a quilt. It is a valance to go over my mother's window. And again, bed sheets. These are my mother's bed sheets. And the real inspiration for this material is the fact that my parents are skiers. And I had this skiing material that I've had for 15 years. So yes, all of my material is either 15 years old or 2 years old, nothing in between. So I had made my mother a vest back. There was a time period, I think I made like 4 vests out of this skiing material. And ever since then, I've had this skiing material just sitting. And so I thought I'll make her a valance. Because again, it's not as big as a full-size quilt. And it was an opportunity for me to experiment with all of the different types of stitches that came on my Singer C7290Q. C for computerized, Q for quilting. It's supposed to be the best combo machine, and I'm pretty happy with it, except, like I said, for the free motion foot. So, I sewed. I got a jelly roll, and a jelly roll is 12 different pieces of fabric that a designer thinks goes together, and that's the snowflakes. See, snowflake, snowflake, snowmen, snow people rather, and then the plain colors. And then leaning into this, which was blue and red, and my mother's bed sheets that were blue and red, I went with blue and red. I also, from the 70% off table, got this really cool red snowflake material. It's supposed to glow in the dark. And then I got this red snowflake material, which I was just going here to make more reds and blues, but you're going to see it later. And like I said, I was at my mother's place and she gave me her buttons, so I added some snow people here. See, here's the buttons, Mom, from what you gave to me. So this is the valance. It starts out, this is one edge, okay? Oh, and like I said, a crazy quilt is supposed to have a lot of stuff going on. It's supposed to have so much going on that it goes around the crazy corner and back and becomes just magnificent. Hopefully I made it all the way around the corner, because there's that in-between area where you go, you got to get all the way around the crazy corner of ostentatiousness. So, which I didn't want to get too far. I didn't want to overdo the buttons because since it is going to be a valance, I didn't want to weigh too much. So I didn't necessarily know where that sweet spot was. So this was my sweet spot. So the red and blue sheets, because you got to use up your sheets. The 70% off glow-in-the-dark snowflake material. The snowflakes off of Amazon are some accent points. The skiing material, and I quilted just around the skier very carefully. And you can see all the different white trim I used stitches because, every snowflake's different, so every stitch is different. Well, not every stitch. The machine has 75 stitches, but 25 of those are letters, so 50 different stitches, give or take. And I leaned into the zigzag stitch because it's like the marks that a skier makes when they're going through the snow. And again, I used rickrack here as my trim to cover my joinings. And because again, it's like the skier going up and down the snow, or going down the snow, making all the turns. So see, it's got a center point, and then the two skiers are skiing towards the center point. And then I had to make it long enough to, because it's a really big window. It's a double window, so I had to make it really long. I measured it at Thanksgiving. Hopefully I got it right. So 5 snowflakes, 2 snow people, and the skiers. And then on the back, I used up some more of that skiing material because I don't know that I'll ever use it again. And actually, I like how it looks